Today we're going to be talking about William Shakespeare's Othello. In particular, I want to talk about Act 1, Scene 1. The play starts in Venice on a street. Enter Roderigo and Iago. At the very outset of the play, Iago and Roderigo established their common dislike for Othello. We learn in a series of conversations that Roderigo loves Othello's new wife, Desdemona, and Iago has been passed over as lieutenant for one Michael Cassio, a man he calls an arithmetician. Brabantio, Desdemona's father, finds out that his daughter and Othello have been secretly married. And this happens because Iago has this brilliant plan to yell at Brabantio's house until he comes to the balcony. Brabantio assumes immediately that Othello has cast some kind of spell on Desdemona in order to win her love. He otherwise believes that this union between them would be entirely implausible. Brabantio then decides by the end of the scene that him and his men and Roderigo will leave in search of Othello. What's important here is that Iago sets in motion a very important conflict in the play between Roderigo and Othello, Brabantio and Othello, and then promptly leaves, citing that, on lines 154 and 155, for necessity of present life, I must show out a flag and sign of love. And the final part of that line is, in fact, I must show out a flag and sign of love, which is indeed but sign. He reminds the audience and Brabantio, well, Roderigo really, that he does not love Othello. He will continually make gestures towards Othello, but will have to remind the audience and Roderigo that he in fact hates Othello. Both Roderigo and Iago make a ton of crude jokes, especially about Othello's skin color. One in particular is this reference to Othello over and over again as the devil. Now, the devil in the Elizabethan era would have a number of meanings. The first is that the devil is quite specifically a biblical allusion to Lucifer, Satan, Beelzebub, so on, whatever you want to call him. But the devil is also clearly an outsider, a person of dark skin, mostly because in Elizabethan depictions of the devil was often depicted with dark skin. So a person of dark skin was on the side of the devil. And to compound this, devil was also a term used to refer to anybody who was non-Christian. And then in a very limited sense, any outsider, or non-Christian for that matter, was considered in line with the devil. So in saying that Othello is the devil meets a number of important expectations for where we'll see his character go. A number of critics have spoken about the fact that Othello is a Moor, and people from Morocco are, generally speaking, of the Muslim faith, although Othello is living and working in Venice, which is a predominantly Christian Catholic country. So it is interesting in this case that Othello is referred to very early on as a devil. It sort of raises some flags as to whether or not Othello is himself a Catholic, a true Catholic. Brabantio reminds us that all of this is referring to a very strong bond, the break in his and Desdemona's relationship he calls a treason of the blood. It's a reminder early on that blood, kinship, family is really important, but also sanguinity and passion, the humors are also really important. We can talk about that later. We're also reminded in Act 1, Scene 1 that racism is alive and well. Early on, there's a reference made to Othello as an old black ram tupping your white ewe in relation to Othello having sex with Desdemona. This is also the moment when he says that you better work or do something soon, or else the devil will make a grandsire out of you, will make a grandfather out of you. The devil referring to Othello. This is not the first time that we will have Desdemona's maidenhood, her virginity, her pureness referred to. Here it is as a white ewe, something that is entirely pure, honest, clean. Later it'll be with the handkerchief, but there will be a number of other small gestures made towards the fact that she is pure and clean and perfect, least of which because she is a Christian, a Catholic.